Here so long.
Mr. Chairman, you missed an item.
Oh, I'm sorry. Trail cameras. I'm sorry. Edible portion of game, watermelon berries, Chief Game Warden Rob Buonamici. Sorry I overlooked you. I didn't do it on purpose.
No problem. This won't take long. A couple hours and we'll be done.
Okay. You bringing dinner in?
Basically what I did is just put together a quick presentation to give an overview of trail cameras, and I combined hunting blinds into this, and you'll see why here. Trail cameras, you know, come in all forms. They have SD cards, they have remote uplinks to computers. You can, some of them sit at home and see what's going on your home computer. You can sit up on the mountaintop with a cell phone and BlackBerry and watch it on your video screen on your cell phone. So they're pretty advanced in technology. Current status of trail cameras, they are legal in the state of Nevada. NDOW has the authority to regulate as they directly relate to hunting. We can't say it's unlawful to put a trail camera at a spring or what have you. And the BLM and Forest Service, they own it as well. But we can regulate them similar to how we do for aerial scouting. If we apply the regulation as it directly relates to hunting. Some of the pros and cons, trail cameras. Pros, kind of a year-round hobby for a lot of folks. They can see secretive wildlife that normally doesn't get seen. They can be used to sell trophy hunts. Some people are going to say, well, that's not a pro, that's a con. You also see that on the con side. And they allow non-hunters to enjoy wildlife. And again, some of the cons to trail cameras, they do get stolen. That's occurring. SD cards, real popular to take out of trail cameras. They can restrict wildlife access if habitats manipulated to funnel wildlife in front of the trail camera. They tend to cause baiting, and depending on your perspective, they can be used to sell trophy hunts. State survey. I called a lot of the Western chiefs this last week. Does your state allow the use of trail cameras for purposes of hunting? The ones that do allow them are everybody I talked to. California, Utah, Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, Oregon, New Mexico, and Arizona. And none of the states I surveyed restrict the use of trail cameras in any way, shape, or form. In fact, a lot of them promote it. Arizona and their Arizona Game and Fish magazine, they promote using trail cameras. Utah Division of Wildlife, trail cameras, an exciting hobby, a new scouting tool. They promote them. Just some conclusions, recommendations that we have. Talking to Midwest states over the years and the Western states I talked to, our bigger concern is baiting down the road. Can I say there's a problem with that in Nevada right now? No, there is not. We do get multiple calls every year. Hey, can you bait deer, elk, what have you? And the answer is yes. You currently can bait for the big game ungulates. So with the use of trail cameras, I think baiting is probably going to be kind of a trend east to west, be the future issue that we're going to face. So we might want to look at being proactive and addressing that now. That's just food for thought. Like I said, I can't sit here and honestly tell you there is a problem because there's not right now, but we're expecting one. So with that, the next portion is water development and barriers. Current status, NRS 503660, no camping within 100 yards of a water hole. There are no restrictions regarding blinds and barriers to water holes. So currently, you can pretty much do what you want and, you know, put up any kind of barrier you want, what have you. Water development barriers, some of the concerns out there. It impedes wildlife access to water. Habitat destruction, junipers around guzzlers. We had one in particular around Muleshoe, an elk guzzler, Lincoln County. Individual chopped down juniper trees. Not in itself a bad thing when it comes to habitat. But took the trees, stacked them right along the fence line around the guzzler, and left a 10-foot opening for the elk to go through and set the hunting blind right there by that 10-foot opening. Aesthetics, you chop down the vegetation, you leave it there, it dries out, you know, doesn't look the greatest. Our biologists have found individuals with put Clorox bleach in springs, except for the spring they have their blind at. So the animals have to go use water at that particular blind. Our biologists have also found disabled guzzlers as a result of trying to restrict the animals to one guzzler. And mannequins. Individuals set up a blind and then put mannequins at all the other surrounding springs and guzzlers to keep the animals. So, and these are, you know, don't get the idea that this happens every day. They're rather unique cases, but they do happen. Confrontations between hunters, that's not so unique. That's more common. We've had fist fights. We've got charges pending in White Pine County right now. Shots fired, individual in a tree stand actually. No, I'm hunting this spring. Well, no, I'm here in the tree stand. Well, that person opened up bluegrass season a week early in the tree that the hunter was in, type of situation. Bluegrass hunting. Blocking roads. So a myriad of issues with confrontation between hunters. That's fairly common. So this is just an example, blind set up at a guzzler. You know, like I said, when things start to dry out, you know, it doesn't look too great. Okay, so we did a survey. While I was talking to the chiefs about the trail cameras, I asked them about, does your state restrict camping near water holes, guzzlers? New Mexico, if they're man-made structures, yes, they restrict camping. California restricts camping near them. Nevada restricts camping near them. And Arizona within a quarter of a mile. The ones that don't restrict camping near water holes, Oregon, Colorado, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming. Then they were asked, does your state restrict blinds near water holes or guzzlers? California, yes, within 200 yards. All the other states, Oregon, New Mexico, Colorado, Idaho, Utah, Wyoming, Arizona, Nevada, no. Some conclusions, recommendations. Bottom line, this is a social and ethical issue. So this is something that the good hunters, the good sportsmen, are going to have to decide, you know, what they want to do here. What does the public want regarding the use of blinds? They want a distance restriction. You know, here I come back to, I got to agree with Commissioner Corbin. He mentioned, you know, he likes things specific. Yeah, the more specific we can make them, great. So do we want within 100 yards, 200 yards? Do we want that type of deal? Do we want a time restriction? You can only set up a blind 72 hours prior to the opening of the season, and it must be removed on conclusion of your hunt or at the end of the season. Do we want, must be artificial in nature so we don't have the habitat destruction issue? Some of these springs, there's not a whole lot of vegetation around them, and if we go chopping down what's there, you know, it kind of detracts from the cover available to the smaller animals to sneak into the water. And then with regards to guzzlers, we may want to define a water hole in NAC, because right now, water hole does not include guzzlers from a legal perspective. So those are just things to consider, food for thought. Like I said, bottom line, this is the public's decision, commission's decision. So be glad to answer any questions there. With regard to the edible portion, last or one or two commission meetings ago, I mentioned that the issue was hunters reporting poached animals to us. They'd find carcasses out in the hills while they're hunting and going, hey, somebody poached it. You know, most of the meat's still on the mountain, or a big portion of the meat. We'd get those type of complaints. So we'd go out, expend whatever, 6-8 hours investigating those and finding that, no, they just took the bare minimum of meat required by our new regulation. So that's something, you know, if the public's desire, they may want to add back in, you must retain the neck meat, brisket and so forth, but that's up to, you know, again, that's another one of those social, ethical type issues where we'll enforce whatever. We'll just bring up the issues as we see them, and it's up to the public.
Could you send that trail camera and water usage out to the county boards and request, get sportsman input on that?
Sure, we can do that.
Let's see if the county boards, the sportsmen out there find it's a problem with any of the sportsmen out there. And if they want it, bring it back to us, and if they don't, we won't worry about it. I think that's the best thing to do. You know, this the data you got here in a form. Commissioner Macbeth?
Yeah, I do want to point out that the Clark County CAB has actually been dealing with this issue for the last couple meetings, and so they've already had some heated discussions, and it's amazingly split. I mean, there's a lot of them that you know, and most of the responses are more ethical than anything. But there's a lot of people that are very positive. You know, want trail cameras, and so you're gonna. At least what I've seen so far is there's two different you know, camps on this. My question is that don't we have a statute? On our books we have a statute that deals with harassment of wildlife.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a potential or for that statute applying to the some of the things you're seeing with the blinds and the funneling of game and that, or do you think that you actually need something that is specifically deals with it?
I believe we need something that's specific to that issue. The harassment is geared more towards harassing with a motor vehicle, chasing them down that way. ATVs and so forth.
Commissioner Cabral?
Yeah, I frankly, I'm kind of shocked that the water hole doesn't include the guzzler, and I think that's really something that we should, for the protection of the wildlife, to be able to drink in peace for that part of it. We should define a guzzler as a water hole and apply those same regulations, I would think. So that I would definitely think you ought to send that out to the cabs for comment.
Okay, we got a comment from the public. Come on up.
Chairman Lent, real quickly, Paul Dixon, Clark County Cab. I want to thank Commissioner Howe for picking up an agenda item that I had on my December agenda, which was trail camera use. We've had 2 heated meetings in Clark County around this. I'm glad to see the commission's picked it up, and Rob has actually put together a very nice presentation and some path forward ideas. I think it's time for us to realize that this may not be a problem today, but with the advancement of technology and stuff, I mean, there was at least clear indications that somebody sold a trophy tag, a guide, to somebody for $5,000 in Lincoln County, is what I heard at our CAB meeting. I think that's correct. And so there's going to be an ever increasing, when you worry about the ethics of things, how we do it, and setting up some boundaries of how far you can get. You may not ever be able to get it where you want it, but putting boundaries or a box on this, I think this commission and getting input from the cabs would be really good at setting that box and getting it out in front of things. So thank you.
You guys tell us what you want to do.
I'll make this real quick. Chad Blish, Eureka County. I put out a handful of trail cameras every year. You know, I like seeing the wildlife and how they act when no one's around and stuff. But one thing, and I made a huge mistake by deleting these pictures, because I think we all could have used them today in what we're doing with the wild horse issue. I had a camera on a spring that, again, was choked out by the trees and everything, and they weren't really, there's not a lot of water that comes quickly there. There's a group of horses come in, they watered, there was a doe in the background of the first picture, and she was real poor condition. You could see her ribs and stuff. And she waited in the background while these horses drank. These horses drank, they were around there for probably 20 minutes, this one particular group waiting for their drink. Those horses left. I got a picture of the doe about halfway to the water. And my next picture was the doe standing back in the foreground, and another bunch of horses had come in. The doe, this was over a 4-hour period, and I got one picture of that doe at that water, and she was laying in the mud waiting for the water to fill up so she could have a drink. And the next picture was her walking away and more horses coming in, and the water was still not replenished. So that doe never did get a drink. I left that camera there for, well, I had it there most of the summer. I had to walk way back into this country, and I'd go check it every once in a while. And I never did get a picture of that doe again, whether she died or she actually moved to another water source further away that had more water, so she had the opportunity to drink. So, I mean, there's a lot of things you can learn from using the trail cameras, and so there are a few good things with them also.
I don't think it's opposition to trail camera. I think it's opposition to use them for hunting purposes.
Sure. Yeah, I understand.
I think that's what we'd like to hear, what the public thinks, you know. Okay. Let's go on to H, litigation report.